interrupt everybody. Caitlin, could you start us with roll call today, please?
Schichtel,
Here?
Warner,
Here.
Tenza,
Here.
Theobald,
Here.
Brown, here, Hamner,
Here.
Solomon, Johnson,
Here.
Swigert,
Here.
Pesha.
Okay. Thank you, Caitlin. We have quorum, so let's, next up is approval of agenda. Do I have support?
So moved.
Second.
Warner,
Yes. Support.
I support it.
Oh, yes. Yay.
Tenza,
Yes.
Theobald,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Hamner,
Yes.
Solomon, Pesha, Johnson,
Yes.
Swigert,
Yes.
Schichtel.
Yes. All right, thank you. Section 3, approval of the minutes of April 23rd, 2025. Have support? Should have been in the meeting packet that everybody reviewed.
Motion to approve.
Tenza,
Yes.
Theobald,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Hamner,
Yes.
Solomon, Pesha, Johnson,
Yes.
Swigert,
Yes.
Schichtel,
Yes.
Warner.
Yes.
Thank you. Section 4, public comment. This is a session with no open dialogue. You may address the board with your comments, and each person has 3 minutes. All right, anyone? Okay. Section 5, review of old action items. Section A is the well update in the LDFA area for Jeff.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The well update is that all of the homes in the area have been connected to city water. We had one home that had a well still active on one spigot. That has been corrected. The second home, the old gentleman that lived on 13th, there he has connected, and then the other home has been tore down. It is demolished. We have contacted Pearson's Well Drilling now to abandon the wells there. But all the homes are hooked to city water, and the wells are just, we're waiting for Pearson's to come and pull them and abandon them correctly. So that issue should, hopefully by the next time we meet, that issue will be completely put to bed, and everything will be done on them. So we have permission from all the homeowners to come in and abandon their wells, so we should be good to go on that one.
Any questions or comments for Jeff before we proceed? All right, thank you, Jeff.
Yep, no problem.
Section B, update on the EPA's opinion on keeping higher grade carbon in place until hexavalent chromium cleanup is closed. Jeff, you again.
Me again? Yes, this is a great issue. It's kind of a hot potato. EPA deferred it to Eagle, and Eagle is looking at it currently because it's still in our permit, hexavalent chrome for testing, though they know we're asking to close that part of the cleanup up since we're not finding any hexavalent chrome. So they have bumped it up to their engineers, and they're going to get back to me. I do believe they'll let us go to the lower grade of carbon that will capture PFAS but not necessarily capture hexavalent chrome. Since we're not showing any hexavalent chrome coming into the process, I do believe they'll let us go to the grade that will capture the PFAS but not necessarily capture the hexavalent chrome. But again, that is one where they're looking into that, and they'll get back to us on whether we can do that or not. The whole issue, if you remembered, we had to have a higher grade of carbon to capture the hexavalent chrome, since we are asking to discontinue the northern air plating chromium cleanup, and since they have allowed us, to entertained us on that, and our numbers are low enough on that, we could go down to a lower grade of carbon, save, I don't know, $20,000 on the carbon, still get the PFAS capture, but not get necessarily any hexavalent chrome we'd run into capture. So that was that one.
And on the financial side, the difference, the disposal was like 50,000 to like 20,000 with a different carbon, is that?
Yeah, that is correct. I mean, it was a significant cost savings if we can go, but since it's in our permit yet, you want the permission to go to the lower grade before you do it. We probably could have done it and you'd never see anything on our results because we're not getting hexavalent chrome in, but we want to make sure all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed correctly before we do that, so.
So Jeff, could you help remind me, we've got, do we have a set of carbon that's, we're still looking for recycling disposal?
Yeah, we do have one canister or one tank that has carbon in it. We've tested it twice now. We do have a place we can dispose of it through the company we use. They had it all lined up. But the whole thing was when we're getting rid of that carbon, we obviously want to recharge that tank with carbon. And so we've kind of been holding that process until we get the okay of which grade of carbon to put back in there.
Oh, I
so
see.
it's not a situation where we couldn't get rid of the carbon. We can get rid of it today, but then we'd have an empty tank there. When they haul that stuff in or when they haul it away, we want them to have a truck right there that they can load that tank at the same time, and then we'll be good to go and we'll have that backup again. For the tank
so this is a backup tank.
Yeah. We have a tank now that's currently relatively new. I think it's 9 months we've been running on. The previous tank we ran on for like 15 years, so we'll be good for a few years. So,
And this is just collecting the input from production well number 5, correct? So it's not a 2 million gallon a day type of thing. It's
nope, it's just one tank, and we have a little bit of room in that tank that we can, as we had discussed, actually put S1 and S2 wells into that because the piping's available. We would be a little bit on the hydraulic high side when we do that, but it should still work. But
we're going to defer that question to EPA until we get our sampling plan up and running. That makes sense to me.
Yep.
But right now we got a quote of about $50,000 from this company to recharge that canister. That includes the disposal of the old carbon, correct, or the recycling of it.
I think that we had a 50,000 one just to charge it on the first with a higher grade, and then we've got a quote of the 20, and then the disposal, which would be 50 if we go with the lower grade.
Oh, so to recharge it, it's 20.
With the lower grade.
And to dispose it's another 50.
No, another like 30, I think.
Another 30.
It'd be 50 combined.
50 combined.
Or
Okay.
we could do 50 just to recharge, I think, the higher grade, and then we'd still have the 20 or 30 for disposal.
Okay, so okay.
So that's the savings is between the new carbon and the old carbon.
But-
Obviously, it's disposal's the disposal.
But we're still looking at like 50 to 80,000, 50 on the low end, $80,000 on the high end.
But 30,000 savings. I mean, hopefully.
Yes. Well, good. I'm glad you're pressing all options. I mean, the one concern I had, Jeff, is like, this is not considered a haz waste, correct?
No, I've asked them about that and getting certificates of recycling, certificates of disposal. I forget what you called them, but I did ask
Certificates
the
of destruction.
destruction, and they assured me everything would be okay, and we, because you had mentioned that, and I had
Thank you.
specifically talked to them about that.
I mean, the concern is like if you generate haz waste, you can only keep it on site in storage for, depending if you're conditionally exempt, small quantity or small quantity, large quantity. You got time limits, but it sounds like we're good. We don't have to worry about that. Thank you for asking, Jeff.
Yep. Oh, you asked me to ask. I passed it on.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, you got a few things on your plate, I've noticed.
It's Monday or Wednesday.
All right, anything else on this topic for Jeff before we move on? Okay. All right, section 6, groundwater treatment plant operations, quarterly report, the second of 4 that are per the bylaws. Jeff, back to you.
Yep, let me go here, move this guy up here. So, have this little report again. I did one like this before. It's pretty much the same. I'm gonna, new numbers, updated numbers, for everybody for this meeting. We're gonna go over the budget, operations, update, EPA oversight and city water supply. I don't know if we do all that. I'll have to see. 24-25 budget, we just wrapping that up. Again, just to bring everybody up to speed, 63% of our budget is utilities cost. 13% of our budgets is salaries and fringe benefits for the operations. You can see engineering and repairs about 5% of our budget. 11% of our budget is contracted lab. So between the utilities, the contracted lab, and the operation salaries, that's a majority of our budget. We can see this on our next slide. For current 2025, we have about 21,000 in budget. We have, let's see, contracted lab, 30,000. Our big cost is utilities, $180,000 a year we budget for utilities. That is just astronomical. You can see carbon here is 0 for the last year. We haven't changed it out. We will be amending that budget in the future to have carbon change out when we need it. Operations, I've got the year 25 rate in here so far. Oop, let me go back. So we're about 360 million gallons this year, going towards 700 million a year. So I just put where we're currently at. Currently, year to date, we have concentrations from 17.0 parts per billion to 14.0 parts per billion of VOCs coming in. So when I do my math on this, we get about 41 pounds of VOCs we removed this year so far at the plant. On pace to do a little bit less than what we did last year. Obviously the concentrations are lower. Last year our average for the year was 17. This up here is 17 parts per billion. This year already our average is at 15.5. So we're bringing less in because we are cleaning it up. And VOC concentrations in the discharge, just to remind everybody, has been below detection limits since the startup in 1996, with one exception. I think early in 96 or early in 97, we had one exception that we were above the detection limit, but since then we've never detected anything in our outfall. Nice chart again. I put in the 25 again. You can see we're down a little bit more on 25. Same with the VOCs, we're down. We have a half a year's worth of data, but we are, again, this VOC would be 41 pounds. This one over here, the one up, was 106 pounds. So, you know, being May is almost halfway through, I'd be looking at probably 90 pounds, 95 pounds of removal this year, down from 110 last year, if everything keeps up the same. So the VOC concentration again, the pounds we did, both of them again, 41.1. Why am I in a loop? Ooh. I don't know what happened there, guys. I'm in a little bit of a loop. But that's all we have for today then. Just kind of a summation of the last quarter. I would prefer that I do another one next month. I will have actually a half a year's worth of data next month in July. As we had talked, Matt and I had talked, I'm kind of off kilter. I do have the June's results, but I don't have the June's flow in. So I'd like to do quarterly reports to you guys, so it'd have to be 1 month off the quarter. And so if that would be okay with the board, that next month I do another one, but I do a half a year. It'll be a half a year. I'll have June's data, and I can update this, and then we'll just do that as the quarterly reports after that.
So do you want the overall monthly compliance checklist to be out a month on all 4 of them?
Yeah, so instead of being in June, it'd be July, it'd be, September, October, it'd be January. So 1 month after, I should have all my data and all my flow data, and then that will put me on the quarters. Otherwise, I'm getting, 5/12ths of a month, 5/12ths of a year here, so if that's okay with the board.
Anybody else have questions or comments?
It looks like if you look at the part per million, where we started, I mean, it looks like, am I looking at that right? We were probably over 1,000 parts per million, or?
Oh, here on this one? Or this one in 1997, our first year in 1997, and we don't even go back that far, we were at 4,581 pounds of VOCs we removed. All right, so, and then this year, so far, we did 41 pounds. So 2 ton, back in the day, we removed 2 ton of VOCs from the water
That's
in
a lot of
the first year.
That's a lot of groundwater
That's a lot
contamination.
of groundwater. And now, again, we're bringing in basically that same volume of water every day. And since we pulled in everything from the surrounding areas, we're only getting 41 pounds. So that first year we got 4,500 pounds. This year,
And I know this is a tough question to answer on the spot, but one of the questions I have long-term is, are there like wells that are, for this remaining 14 pounds per year, are there hot spots, or is it just one big, are we seeing one uniform level of VOC contaminants, or are there 4 or 5 wells that are just the worst actors that you're seeing the problem, the residual coming from?
we obviously have some wells that are more concentrated than others, but it is pretty much as over the whole area. I'd say there's spikes, wells that have spikes in them, a little higher levels than everybody else around them, but we're getting them from every well. There's not a well that tests clean, so we're getting it from all of our wells combined. We're getting a little bit.
We'll know a lot more about that when we get our sampling plan moving forward.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Hey,
So-
Jeff,
Go
Yes.
ahead.
you know what $180,000 annually, is that presumably electric cost?
Electric and gas.
Do you know what that electric converts to? I mean, how many kilowatt hours per year?
No, I don't offhand. I can have it for you the next time.
Yeah, if you don't mind. I
Yep.
was wondering how much energy it takes
We
to.
do have a grant in the works trying to do some solar gain on that, right, Brian? Or we have that?
That's for the city municipal, not the LDFA, but we did, Mike, Jeff and I sat down with a representative from Consumers Energy, and I can't really, go into the exact details, but in my view, I think we could do better from Consumers. Our friends at Consumers can do a little better. It's mostly the challenge that I'm seeing in the bills in the pumping treatment, and we get bills from all the production wells, and then the biggest bill I think is the main treatment facility with the air stripper is this capacity. We get dinged like for a few days of the year at just really significant capacity charges, and if we can better manage that and maybe get on a different rate. Jeff, have you heard anything back from our friends from Consumers?
Not yet. So, but, and also, please remember that we did go from the two towers and the transfer pumps, we went down to 1. So we are still budgeting at the 180. I would assume, because our transfer pump was one of our big, transfer pump and a blower was some of our bigger energy consumption, I would assume that we'll be able to go down to, 120 maybe on those because of us not, the way we're currently operating the plant.
When did you make that change?
I think we would like last July or August we did that, so we haven't had a whole year's worth of data yet on that. So again, we had already had that budget, and I think we kept that budget the same for this year, 180. But I do believe it will be significantly. I know it will be significantly less.
Yeah, we're under our budget this year, so I'm sure.
So I'm sure we'll be under budget just because of that that the two big consumptions, the blower and the transfer pump.
Could-
If,
Could you maybe get back, some kind of response at the next LDFA meeting? It's been quite a while since we talked to them. I think they kind of owe us some response.
okay, so.
Yeah, and the actual energy usage a year would be, well, as far as electricity.
We've got that on our bills. Jeff can, I've looked at it.
Yes.
In my opinion, it's just, you look at most traditional commercial bills, and there's really, really good rates, and we're not, and I don't know if we're enjoying that because of capacity charges. But thanks for bringing that up, Mike.
I was looking at this, the concentration up here when we started in '96 was 661 parts per billion. And again, this last quarter, we're at 15.5. So it's significantly down from what we were getting into the plant, Mike, Brian.
So, Jeff, I don't know if this is the right part of the agenda, but I do want to mention to my fellow LDFA board members that the discussion I had with Jeff about a pilot technology demonstration for a PFAS destruction technology. This whole idea, believe it or not, was brought up to me by Bill Barnett, who had a discussion with, during a citizens meeting, Teams meeting with Director Phil Ruse from Eagle. And he said, "Hey, Director, you're an innovation, you have a background in technology and innovation. Do you think Eagle would help fund a pilot technology study?" And he was favorable to that. Exactly what that means, how much it costs, what exactly the technology, my starting point on, what the technology we should invite, or if we get to that point, would be a couple of the companies that Mr. Lampier referenced in his last article on PFAS destruction technologies. That would be a good place to start. These discussions are very, very preliminary. I'd welcome anyone that wants to be part of them to help me, work this out. I want to let my fellow members of the board know that I know I'm getting ahead of things a bit, but this is not something that I'm expecting a decision on without the full involvement from the board. And right now, we just don't have a plan in place, but I'm working to get an idea, concept plan, and with the full approval from the board, present that to Director Ruse. It's kind of his personal project, and I'm like, well, look, if we can learn more about the issue of PFAS without significant dollars from expenditures from the city, that's a good thing, and we might learn that it's much less expensive. There's no direct application here. I'm certainly not recommending that we apply a $2 million, $3 million PFAS cleanup project for the whole LDFA system. Mm-hmm. It's just an opportunity to learn more about the subject that I think we know, so to date, we still know very little about. There's a lot more to learn, but I just wanted to, be public about that and let everyone know that I'm not really pressing for a decision until we know a lot more. Thank you.
Not only support you on that, Brian, and your efforts in that, but I commend you for going above and beyond to try to get something done with this. I know all these grants and stuff that you've worked on is very time consuming, and I know your pay on this board is not real well, but I appreciate the hours that you're spending on trying to make sure that the city doesn't pay for some of these programs, so thank you.
Well, you're welcome. My concern is that, I don't want to act alone. This is not, I'm one member of 10. And it's just Bill's fault. He's the one that stirred the pot, so I think it's a good idea. And then I think, Jeff, for now, we're tentatively looking at meeting with a couple of the vendors this Thursday still. Is that still a good time for you?
we'll talk offline.
Okay.
I got something that came up. So,
okay.
But maybe.
Okay.
If I may too, I just want to remind the board that PFAS is not one of the criteria that we're supposed to be cleaning up currently. So a pilot would be great on one of the wells, but it really has nothing or does not currently affect our NPDES permit in any way. Now, I do believe in our new NPDES permit there's going to be PFAS limits and yada, yada, all that. But currently, we're charged with the hexavalent chrome and the VOC. So cleaning up PFAS on a pilot study, like, if we took the one well we know that has a little higher level and just ran that through a PFAS cleaning for a pilot, I think that would be a great opportunity, as Brian said, to learn a lot about this, but it does not help or hurt us in our NPDES permit or in our compliance, because that is not a analyte that we currently have to meet certain regulations on.
Present day.
Present day, I do believe we will have to.
When's your NPDES renewal application?
I think next year, I think June, I think April of 26, I have to turn it in, and then by the fall, October, they say they'll issue one, but usually it's about a year after that they issue it, so.
I'll just speak for myself as a senior citizen. Time goes by pretty quick.
It does. Oh.
I don't think you're alone, Brian. I think there's a lot of people that would support a pilot program. I even know the city manager gave a blessing for
Yep.
looking at the pilot, so.
If we ran a pilot and a permit that doesn't recognize PFAS, would we have to get permission? I'm assuming you have to have permission to run a
Yeah.
pilot in a system that's permitted?
Right.
So
It
what
would
would be
be,
the process for that, and how long would that take?
It would be, that's a great question, Jen. It would be, of course, something, since EPA is involved in the system. And then Eagle would also need to give blessing. I don't think this would involve a modification of NPDES permit, like, and I can't speak to the permit exemptions specifically, but like in the air quality regulations, I know there's permit by rule exemptions for pilot and de minimis studies. But you're correct, we just could not do this unilaterally. We'd need to coordinate with her, and that's good. I'd want them involved and verify the data and make sure that what we're looking at is accurate.
I guess that's why I brought up the NPDES permit, is because since it's currently not in the NPDES permit, I do believe it'd be an easier road, because no matter what we did, you can't make it worse. So it'd just be taking something that we know there's a known quantity, and now do we have a lesser quantity after the cleanup, and so I think it would be a lot easier road. If it was a permitted limit, I think it'd be a lot harder road to do a pilot at that point, because it is a permitted limit. So
Thank you for you're working with us on that, Jeff, and more to come.
Yep.
More to come.
Okay, move on. Section 7, update on the progress of Geosyntex Environmental Consulting, Environmental Optimization Services. Jeff?
I'm sorry on this one. I really did not get a chance to get back to them and see what more they needed. I have been sending them stuff, so I it's no excuse. It's my fault. I should have had a better thing prepared for this, and I thought I was going to have time, and I did not. So and last time I had sent them the requested items, or a bunch of the requested items they wanted, and they were working on it. So I'm this is my fault, guys. I thought I was going to have time to do it this week, and I didn't. So to get back a hold of them. So
Well, I do know there was a long laundry list, and you've been providing a lot of documentation.
trying to. So
And I do know they wanted to have a site visit, and we're going to be working on a whole yearly calendar plan, so they can make that work. So
Yep.
I think we're on pace for that.
But like I said, I should have a better one. And the guys, this is me. This is Jeff. Please blame me on this one. I should have had a better thing for you guys here.
All right. So next month you can give us a more detailed update on this, because
I will, for sure.
All right. Okay. So, a similar basis, another environmental consultant, Section 8, update on the progress of Flesh and Vanderbrink Environmental Consulting, Cadillac monitoring plans, the QMP, let's not do acronyms here, Quality Management Plan, Institutional Control Implementation and Insurance Plan, the well surveys, and overall timing of EPA compliance.
Right. I talked to EPA here recently. The quality management plan, Fleece and Vanderbeek resubmitted it with revisions on 6/17, and it is under EPA review. The PFAS QAP was approved by EPA on 5/6/25, waiting on Cadillac signatures. I don't know why they're waiting on our signatures. I'll get back to them on that. I thought I had done all that. The regular QAP, not the PFAS QAP, was approved on 3/10. That one has the signatures. The contaminants of concern sampling plan submit to EPA, then the EPA is reviewing. The PFAS/14D sampling plan submit to EPA, and the EPA is reviewing. Well survey submit to EPA, EPA reviewed, LDFA we have to rehab well M5. I think that one is currently under about 6 inches of asphalt in one of our industrial properties. So we'll be rehabbing that well. That's a very important well to us to do monitoring on. And the 3 wells in the ordinance areas, 2 wells hooked up to city water, one's demolished, the EPA was telling us. And so our next steps, rehab MW5 is our next steps. We gotta get the PFAS QAP with signatures submitted. That's it, basically it. The submit institutional control implementation and assurance plan. So we're gonna have our, probably gonna come back and have Fleece and Vanderbrink do that for us. The EPA recommends that we have our contractor actually do that for us. So that was our, and for the EPA, they have to review the pollutants of concern sampling and analysis plan, review the PFAS 1-4D sampling and analysis plan. They're just completing the 5-year review, and it's due in August. I know Catherine was getting the final touches on that. And then they want to review the quality management plan resubmission. So.
So I know the biggest action item to get back on pace with having the quarterly testing done on the monitoring wells was the well survey.
Right.
And it sounds like we have that all done except for MW5.
Well, yes, MW5 is the worst of the worst, and we're gonna have to cut pavement or cut asphalt and find it and rehab it. There are some with bent covers not on them, lids not locked. Those things we can just take care of, and it's an easy fix. So there's more rehab than that, but this is the one that is this is the big one that we want to make sure that we get this one back online. We got a lot of data in the past from MW5. So that's the one the other ones, you can move around a little bit. You know, I have this 30 foot away, another well, I can move over to that one. But this one was one that we got a lot of data from, so.
So maybe you could give me some timing on the well survey, just offline, not right now, just because compliance is really important on this one.
Yep.
So maybe we can work together on that
Yep.
to get some timing.
Yep.
Is
for
there
sure.
any other roadblocks other than that to get us back into compliance?
I think that's the last one. So again, we're trying to get anything the EPA asks us, we're willingly doing, because again, they've been nice and given us grace on stuff, and we don't want to take advantage of that. We want to definitely keep the ball rolling forward. So.
Anybody have any other questions or comments on this?
So our original hope, we talked about getting all this approved by June, and that's not going to make
It's not going to happen by
Not gonna
Monday. So sorry. I would say now we're looking probably at the end of the next quarter. So the quarters go from July 1st to 3 months from July 1st. So I'd say we'll probably hit the next quarter, but
Well, it doesn't sound like a paperwork issue. It's like we gotta rebuild a well, and
Right.
that's.
We're gonna have
that's
to cut it,
significant.
find it. I mean, we've toned it out. We're pretty sure we know where it's in the asphalt. We'll tone it out, dig it up, make sure it's there, and then we'll rehab it. Put a flush mount lid on it so it won't get destroyed next time. So-
Could, I mean, I gotta ask, Jeff, I mean, could we have seen this coming? Like, hey, one of our key monitoring wells is under asphalt, and, you know, just do it ahead, you know, kind of do it preemptively, or instead of preventative maintenance.
Yes,
or predictive maintenance?
we should have caught that. I can give you some information offline on that, but we should have had that one caught.
And I mean, look, I mean, you've got a whole other utility,
Yep.
Water, drinking water. This is one other layer, and it's a lot to cover, but it's just, I'm disappointed that we've been, what, 2-3 years without a approved sampling plan, and really hoping to see one kicked in by June. And I've had questions from, Eagle, hey, when do you think, getting a data plan is really important. When do you think you'll be able to do that? And we were looking at June.
Yep.
This is not a paperwork issue where we're just waiting on somebody to get back to us. This is
a physical issue.
this
now.
is going to take some time. I understand.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, section 9, the treasury report. Owen's on vacation. Bill's gonna handle this all by himself.
Okay, good morning, everybody. And for background of the general public, and welcome new board members and edification. So I'm just going to go backwards a little bit. When we somewhat reconstituted the board in the spring and the named officers, Matthew, Brian, Caitlin, me as treasurer, although these are not actionable or items that have to be reported out monthly, it was my insistence that we start doing this, and Director Roberts has been wonderful to work for. And so we're including May and June in this. I'm going to be very concise on this because I'm glad we had the utility discussion. Big piece of the budget, big piece of the expenditures. But when we talk about F&V and some of these contracted services, it's easy to forget that those expenditures were made months ago. So you can see, at least in the June, you can see the F&V part of it is almost complete, minus $919. I'm not going to go through line items. I want everybody to be cognizant that the fiscal year ends Monday. Also, we need to stay on the utility bill piece of it, or at least hopefully find an ability to reduce some of that expense. And as we go forward, fingers crossed that some state and federal dollars will come our way, but that's fingers crossed only. And so the next item is the important one, and that is actionable about the budget, and I'll explain that. But unless told otherwise by this board, my thoughts is we should have this memo monthly at my assistance, and Director Roberts has been wonderful to work for on this. I simply have usually a handful of questions, and he can solidify in a memo form. It's not my handiwork or my writing, it's just my blessing. So that's all I have in terms of the May-June report out. Obviously, we start over next Tuesday.
Hey, Bill, just a question on the June, 3,000 contractual lab costs to the state of Michigan for PFAS testing. Is that on the second bullet under expenditure highlights? As
Yes.
far as I know, the LDFA is set up for groundwater cleanup in the industrial park. So, and this isn't PFAS hasn't been identified in that original charter. Does the LDFA have the authority to pay for things outside of the charter?
Great question. I
mean,
can't answer that.
I'm not arguing it, but at least we should, because it's being borne by the group that's in the LDFA as far as the identified companies.
I think that's worthy before the audit process. Let auditor, I mean, you're asking a 30,000-foot question that
Yeah.
I can't answer. I'm not sure anybody in this room can answer that, but thanks for flagging that, Mike.
I guess that's one thing I just would ask is the LDFA does have pretty strict guidelines as to what is in it and what isn't.
And then,
Probably need to flush
Yeah.
that out, or at least highlight it, so if there is ever down the road, the city puts a a task force together or a department or something specific for PFAS outside of the LDFA, not just inside of it,
Yeah,
that these costs are tracked, so they're not
Understood.
just borne by the LDFA.
no, that's, thank you.
I do know in the NPDS permit, sometimes there are additional monitoring that's not normal. And I would consider this as an additional monitoring that's not normal, that the state and EPA had asked for more information on this. Now, I'll have to go back to the NPDS and see, if that is covered. But I know there is additional monitoring in my wastewater permit that just sometimes they say, we want this tested for, and you test it, so.
It's more principle. I don't think this will be the end of it.
No,
So as
I
we
get it.
progress-
I'm just throwing that out as
Yeah.
a safety line, a little bit of a safety line that, I do believe it falls under the additional monitoring for what we have currently spent. Now, if we do something in the future where we monthly start doing a PFAS test, I totally understand, because that's not asked by the EPA or the state currently. But if we had a new NPDS that it was asked, then obviously it would be an approved cost. And
What would be a proposed solution, say, in the next cycle? Eagle says it's in your permit. You
I think
change
you'd
your
have
charter?
to go back to your attorney, because Eagle and EPA don't define the regulations of an LDFA taxing authority. So I would think you'd have to have a legal opinion, because my understanding is LDFAs aren't just about environmental cleanup. It could be a lot of different things. So I think there are statutory regulations on how we function. So I don't know what would look like. I think it's an attorney question.
Yes, it's, as Bill said, this is not something we can answer, but it's a good question. You don't want to be out, you don't want to be out acting outside of our basis
Taxing
of authority.
or a permit, right? Yeah, so I don't know.
So it's, you're kind of stuck in between the boat and the dock there, and
Maybe.
Jeff, it's,
if I may also, remember this all kind of started because we want to close the northern aeroplating site for chromium. And at that point, the EPA had asked, what about PFAS? So obviously there is some, I don't know, backbone in that, because we're doing the PFAS so we can close the chromium system. So again, just refreshing the history here, it's not that we're just going out and testing for, in my mind, it's not that we're just going out and testing for PFAS. Every PFAS test we do, in my mind, is to shut down the Northern Aeroplating Company cleanup. So the EPA will say, yep, you're good, and you don't have to do that anymore, that chromium cleanup.
Yeah, I guess I'm just worried about the chain of custody in that request.
I
and-
get it.
And everything that the LDFA and the payers into the LDFA are all, know exactly what's required, what is opinion, and what is an ask but not legal, or legally in the document.
Well, and we can have the lawyers look into that for us, and that's the whole crux of it is, can you add PFAS to a record of decision? Can you add stuff to this? And when we've set up to do VOCs and hexavalent chrome, that's what we're set up to do. Or would there have to be a new, I don't know what you'd call it, but I'll say LDFA 2 that was set up for the PFAS in that area?
Yeah.
I don't know,
I guess the question too comes in is if we're looking for a different grade of carbon because we're done with hexavalent chromium, but we still want to capture PFAS, well, is that, the LDFA is obviously putting that into the wastewater or the treatment facility. So, where's the gray line? Where's the black and white says the LDFA is responsible for this and isn't responsible for this? I guess
that's a great question.
That's
I mean,
what I
that
just-
I had not actually gone to that depth of the carbon that we're putting. If we get the hexavalent chrome removed, should we just take the carbon offline and
That's
just say we're done? We don't have to put more money into that.
I think we just need some scope definition of, where we're going now, and maybe it's
Great question.
legal or what.
I appreciate the question. I would just as just my personal opinion, I would say the answer that we're hoping to get back, there's probably not going to be a lot of black and white to it. We're in We're in, by just forming a LDFA to clean up VOCs. Mike, I tried to find an example of such an animal in captivity, and it's just not there. We are out, I mean, typically most LDFA, tax increment finance authorities, in my understanding, I mean, they're economic development tools.
Yeah.
And the city, I think some would say, took amazing leadership and stood in the gap between the EPA and industries. Some would criticize that, say, what are you doing? I'm sure there's plenty of attorneys that would say, stay as far away from that issue as you can. I think we're such unique ground here. There's just but I'm not.
We should at least track it. What's
Yeah.
being spent for PFAS specific and what's being spent for the two contaminant specific. So at the end of the day, we can say, okay, PFAS is way bigger than these 3-4 blocks in Cadillac. It goes beyond, and then maybe there's something comes out of it.
We absolutely have to have that discussion because we're representing the other industries that are these are their dollars. We have to
and
be
it's a pretty small
responsible.
group.
At the
Honestly.
same time, it would be advantageous for the industry that to close Northern Air, it is a requirement from the EPA that we test these. So now that we all know that and that we voted it through as a board to do this testing back earlier in the year, we just need to document to make sure we're doing it right. So I think we're all on the same page on this one.
But no,
So
I appreciate.
I'll work with Jeff offline on this, get the attorneys involved.
I mean, it's a great question. At least we can document.
Yeah.
Here's what we know for sure. Here's what we think we know. But at least getting some guidance from somebody, from a legal staff outside our own experience would be great.
All right.
Thanks, Bill.
Anything else for Bill concerning the budget before we move on? All
We
right.
need to handle the budget now. That was just the monthly report out.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Up next is section 10, review of the
Yeah.
LDFA, approval of city council's approved budget. Back to you, Bill.
Yep, thank you. In absence, with Owen not here and Marcus, I'm comfortable with this. Some of us were part of the bylaw committee a couple weeks back, and we talked about this mechanism. In March, we forwarded what is here as a budget. It requires approval or adoption by city council. They did that in May. There was no amendments, no modifications. Then it comes back to us, and then we affirm, then it's in place. Obviously, it can be amended at any time. Part of this great discussion today, and Mike, thank you for the macro question. I've always asked that this is an optimism thing, that we have either a line item or account for potential closing costs for Northern Air things. We don't account for that either. That's gonna cost money, even though that's a good news story, but it's someday. And hopefully in my lifetime, when this is all in a better situation, I think we have to recognize that there's gonna be some back-ended expenses for closure costs. So has nothing to do with this budget, just another macro question. So, Mr. Chair, I think it's just a matter that we solidify the budget officially.
Okay, so we've already approved this.
Yes.
So Caitlin, if you could just do roll call for approval of the budget now that city council has, yes, Jeff?
Did you need a motion?
Sure, I'm
I
sorry.
think so.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Julie.
Theobald,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Hamner,
Yes.
Solomon, Pesha, Johnson,
Yes.
Swigert,
Yes.
Schichtel,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Tenza.
Yes.
Section 11 is the second chance for public comment. Again, this is a session with no open dialogue. You may address the board with your comment. Each person, please stay within 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Warner, for bringing up the pilot. Bill Barnett from Cadillac. I'd like you to explain the MTBE relationship to PFAS. Apparently, the EPA was asking to have that looked at right around 2020 when they came to this board. This board denied access to the LDFA wells to test for PFAS. I never figured out what happened to MTBE. because that was also mentioned in the same meeting that that was a concern, and that the EPA wanted to look at that. I've not found anything that said they wanted to look at that. They wanted to look at PFAS. The LDFA was set up to help and protect human health. The VOCs were to be zero at the end. All contaminants were going to be cleaned up under the ROD. It turned out in 2010 that wasn't going to happen, so it changed and it was just going to be under criteria. But that's how it started out, and all contaminants were mentioned, and that means all contaminants. So you're good to be going forward with this, and the EPA is interested. You're totally within your rights to spend money on this, and I would ask you to do that. It is upsetting to hear that the quarterly testing didn't occur for 2, 3, 4 years, 3.5, 2.5, whatever it was, and now hear that a main well was shut down, covered up, and not required to be tested. There's just a regulatory oversight failure here that it's not been good. So I hope that that continues to improve and change, and that steps are taken in the right direction. But thanks. You had another nice meeting today. Appreciate that, and talking about this important issue. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? Okay. Section 12 is the committee's response to public comments. I'll open it up to the board if anyone has any responses to Mr. Barnett's comments. I would say that I'm really proud to serve on this board, and we've made some huge strides in the last year. And for the new board members, you know, we've really been in compliance for our bylaws for a various amount of things. And EPA, we are just around the corner from getting past these 2 non-compliance issues. It sounds like one has been solidified. Jeff, thank you for that. And we're really close on that second one. Made some huge ground. So just wanted to thank everybody for their efforts this year concerning that. As far as MTBE, I can work offline a little bit about that gas additive and the potential downtown issue, but I can work with you, Jeff, but I'm not familiar with that.
If I may, I mean, if the board's done, if I may make a comment. I was at the meetings with the MTBE. I think that was more of an informational, it was coming from downtown, moving towards the LDFA at that time. And I don't remember the EPA being that concerned about that. They knew what was happening. We knew there was an MTBE plume that started downtown around some of the gasoline. We think around some of the gas stores downtown, and it was moving its way towards the LDFA area. But it was not, I think since it was outside of the LDFA still at that point, it was something that was mentioned, but I do not believe it was ever actively investigated more than what was happening at that time. I can check my records and make sure. Second thing, we did have a bylaws committee meeting. I sent it on to we had made suggestions about changes, the committee did. I had sent that on to the lawyers. I have not received that back yet. Their comments, I know there was a few tweaks we wanted, and I had some clarifications. I was asking, can we do this, can we do that, because the board had asked, and I have not received that back yet from the board. So hopefully by the next meeting we'll have that. Our 2 new members that we have on the board, I did send them an introductory packet which had the bylaws in it, which had the previous quarterly report in it, and then I did send them all the minutes from the beginning of this calendar year to current for them to come up to speed into what we were doing at that point. So I would offer them tours of the LDFA. I'm willing to show you guys around. It's it'll be a dime tour, but you get it for free, and and we can go from there. So. And I appreciate the board too. As Matt said, I think you guys are doing excellent work. So,
All right. Well, before we get too far, thank you for those comments. Let's get just into the committee comments for everyone. Why don't we just jump to that agenda item? And anyone would like to start on committee comments? Usually we interrupt each other. No one wants to go?
I think in deference to our new member, I would like to say welcome. And I did get some background, but I think it'd be great, like, the board to hear a little bit about their background.
Yeah, and if maybe Ms. Brown could introduce and then we could go from there.
All other duties assigned. This is our Nate Swiger. He's been a trusted employee of our maintenance department for 20+ years, and does all of our water sampling and has some background in some of the discussions that we're having, but most of his knowledge and understanding is per state statute for schools and how we report on that and sample. So he can fill in the blanks there.
Welcome, sir.
No, you did good.
Welcome, sir. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
And I also wasn't involved with the appointment and nomination of our other board member. Jeff, maybe you could introduce who was recently nominated and appointed? Mr. Dave Johnson?
Mr. Johnson here was nominated and appointed by the mayor. We had Caitlin Stark. She put in a resignation, and as you guys know, that is filled. The two people that fill seats are the school board and then the mayor. So when Caitlin retired, we looked at the applications we had on file. We had a couple applications on file. Mayor went through them. City manager, I don't know, both of them worked together, and then they had picked Mr. Johnson, and he can give you his own background.
Nothing like him. That's for sure. I'm not gonna lie. Well, I'm Dave Johnson. The reason I'm here is the difference I want to make is because I now run Ackwell. I'm the plant general manager of Ackwell. Used to be Avon Automotive over in our industrial park. So I feel like I have a very big commitment to the city and to me and my plant, and make sure we're tested monthly for various reasons. But so when this was suggested, Mr. Hamner, known him, and I thought it was a great opportunity for me to feel the water, I guess, so to speak. It's the first time I ever really sat on a board like this. So just recently moved back from Ohio. I've worked in Cadillac quite a while, ran Michigan Rubber for a while. So roots are in Cadillac. Definitely want to retire here now. And I just want to make a difference. So I appreciate the opportunity. I really do. You know, everything I've read is still getting a knowledge base of what we actually do and how I can make a difference in all that. So, you know, it's a great thing. It's a great feeling to be part of it and to affect some changes here in Cadillac. So it's kind of what I'm doing.
That's kind of my neck of woods. I have 3 decades over in your
I
company.
heard that.
So-
Still trying to clean up, man.
Yeah. A lot going on. Thank you for your time. And I had a couple questions while we're in comments. As far as the well flow status, I was looking at the notes. We had a due date to get approval from the EPA in June. How are we doing on getting S1 and S2 hooked up to I-5 carbon?
We're still working with them. We had ran into as I had glossed over, I was hoping you guys wouldn't pick up on it, the hydraulic overload of the tank. So they have to, because it's not, you know, I don't know the exact numbers, but let's say the tanks rated for 200 gallons per minute, and with those additional ones, we're going to be doing like 208. Well, that's above the hydraulic limit, so now it's got to go back to their engineers to make sure they'll do what we say it will do. Again, we're not using it for the chromium extraction at that point, so I do believe we'll get the okay on it, but when they did the initial calculations, it was for the hexavalent chrome to take that out, and this is the flow rate at that point. And we just, I want to say we're just 10 gallons over what the limit is. I mean, it's not a whole lot over, but it is over that hydraulic limit. So they're going to have to go back. And now that we're doing PFAS, I think there'll be a different calculation even on that. So it could be less, could be more, but the levels we're seeing coming in, if we are going for the PFAS extraction, would be definitely, they're low numbers, so I think we'd be good on that point. So,
Okay.
yeah, I was hoping you guys wouldn't catch that, so.
Well, in order to stay for just an hour, hour meeting. We are almost hitting it. One last thing, we have a PFAS Resource Solutions Fair this Friday on June 27th at the City Park from 10 to 2.
Yep.
Eagle's gonna be there, City Cadillac's gonna be
Yep.
there, MDHSS, DHS, MSU, a whole 25 vendors, lots of good stuff. Anybody else have any other committee comments?
Along those lines, Mr. Chairman, you know, as many know, I've reached out to Township, Grayling Township Supervisor Lacey Stefan. Lacey just recently reported that they are, I know this is outside the exact scope of the LDFA, but he reported to me that they are turning dirt on extending Grayling municipal water to, well, I think the initial phase is about 400 or 500 residents in the township with private wells. I think the end goal is maybe 1,000 private wells. So they're actually implementing grant dollars, and it's in the amount of, I think, both phases are $80 million. It's been quite a process, 2-year process. Lots of healthy discussion. Is this proper approach? But it was a decision made by a community, and it's really it's encouraging to see a community tackling this really tough issue and addressing it with solutions. And I see that beginning in Cadillac. I think the PFAS Solutions Fair is a great example of. It was sponsored by Cadillac Advocates for Clean Water and Great Lakes PFAS Action Network, and then working in full cooperation with the city. It's really good to see that level of cooperation, and I mean, we're finding common ground, and that's I just really am encouraged by that.
Brian, I'm glad you brought that up, because when I went searching for grants to tackle some of the issues we've been talking about, they're the only model I could find that looked a little parallel to what we're facing in our community.
Mm-hmm.
Is the grant funding that they received, is that still available?
Yes.
Is that one that you're looking at and working through?
Yes.
Okay.
More to come.
Great.
We're in the
All
hunt.
right. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Just curious. Is the only model I could find at all resembling what we're looking at?
I think Pelston is going to be looking at water line extensions, and there's healthy debate over whether you should extend a municipal system or
Sure.
point of use filters. The cool thing with Grayling is that they took 2 years to work through that, and they had it's their consensus, and
Right.
our community may have a different approach.
Sure.
But to answer your question, yes, cautiously optimistic. You always,
Yep.
You got to take the shot.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
All right, any other comments? Okay, next section is the meeting date and time for next meeting, and I think we're gonna lean toward a yearly calendar coming up our new fiscal year. And I think that we had talked about the third Wednesday of every month is what we're shooting for. And now that we're up to 10 full board members, hopefully we can get quorum. And if everyone's okay with the third Wednesday of every month, I'm sure Jeff and his staff can put something together for next meeting, but third Wednesday of every month, correct?
Correct.
At 10:30? At 10:30?
I think that's what we had said, if,
Okay, so July 16th, clarification?
July 16th, and on that agenda, I'll have the next year's meeting dates.
Perfect.
And if there's any conflict, I'll point it out and we'll decide then.
Sounds good.
We're sticking with 10:30.
I think we're gonna go with 10:30, and when we have our informational meetings, we'll just do 10:30 at that time too. We'll just do 2 meetings twice a year, per statutory law. Okay?
Or we could do on the informational ones, we could do at 10.
Sure.
Just 10, and then have the regular 10:30 meeting. That way people they can just meet the LDFA if they just want to come to that.
All right, and then adjournment is next. Do we need to vote on that? Can we just have support to adjourn? All right, thank you, everybody. 1 hour and 4 minutes. Thank you for your time.